Lovely morning to everyone present here. The most awaited moment has arrived. Without further ado, let's welcome our chief guest for today, Ms. Nalini Raghuraman, with a shower of claps. Now, here are our students of grade 8 to interview her.
A wonderful morning, ma'am. There is no greater joy than having you here with us today. Would you mind briefing us on your professional life as a political economy advisor in British Deputy High Commission?
Good morning, everyone. I know it's a Sunday and it's a day to relax, it's a day to enjoy, but I hope I don't, bore you with the details of my work as such, but I'll try to share some interesting aspects. So I work in the British Deputy High Commission. So what is this British Deputy High Commission? So it is a diplomatic office. Like you have the Ministry of External Affairs for India. So we have a foreign minister as well. Do you know the name of the foreign minister of India? Does anybody know the foreign minister of India? His name is Jai Shankar. So you must have seen on YouTube to counterparts in different countries as well. Likewise, India builds relationship with various countries on economics, on different, on different themes. India does build relationship with various countries. So likewise, the UK has its own foreign Commonwealth Development Office, which is basically somewhat like the Ministry of External Affairs, but it includes the Commonwealth work as well. So I am employed by the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, and they have an embassy, the High Commission, because India is a part of the larger Commonwealth of Nations, a group of Commonwealth of Nations. So that is why we don't call ourselves a typical embassy, but we are called 7 other deputy high commissions across India, of which Hyderabad is one. Okay, so Hyderabad covers 2 states, one is Andhra Pradesh and the other one is Telangana. So I work as a political economy advisor in the British Deputy High Commission. So basically my job is primarily to connect people to all the stakeholders which are of interest to the British government in engaging with the Indian government. So it could be in forms of trade.
Your profile states that you worked as an evaluator for anti-poverty programs in various states. So, according to you, which state is the best state for implementing anti-poverty programs and why?
So I worked in that line, in that field of evaluation of anti-poverty programs. I think I did for little, over 2 decades. But I worked up to 2012 May. I worked in that field. It's very difficult to say which state really does very well, because there are different anti-poverty programs. It's a broad area of work, because it includes both in terms of improving livelihoods of people so that people get better incomes, and also in terms of developing human development indicators, in terms of improving the human development indicators. When you're talking about human development indicators, I think you probably would understand that it's more on in terms of their quality of life, in terms of in terms of how their rights are protected and they get better access to all the facilities like education, health, and insurance, safety nets, and so on. So they all come under the human development indicators. So there are some states which do very well on the human development side. Some do very well on promoting livelihood programs. But broadly, I thought Tamil Nadu did a very, very good job in terms of implementing their anti-poverty programs, mostly because they've been able to reach the last mile effectively. But I think the states, I mean, I worked when Andhra Pradesh was united, because state got bifurcated in June 2012, while I left that job in middle of May. So what I have an understanding is about the more about the united Andhra Pradesh, and they did a very good project called the Indira Kanti Pratham. I was a part of that project, which was like World Bank funded, which had both the central government and the state government as part of this project. So it was broadly implemented with the Department of the Rural Development in Andhra Pradesh. So the model was very unique in the sense that they used to implement all the anti-poverty programs through women's self-help groups. So how they empowered women at the grassroots level and built, like various structures, federal structures, like they had SHGs, self-help groups, women, about 10 to 15 women coming together in villages and trying to, seek bank loans to implement, to increase their incomes, and also discuss various other issues that affect them like health, education, and trying to gain better access to them. So all these self-help groups federated from, at the village level, there were several, self-help groups were promoted, they were linked to banks, and then you had another federation of self-help groups at the village level, at the Gram Panchayat level, and from then on there was another federation with all the village organizations into the block level federation, and then above that was a district level federation, and then you have a state level federation. So at every level they were joined up. So this was a very unique program to Andhra Pradesh, and I think I saw the best kind of implementation of anti-poverty programs in Andhra Pradesh. I think a lot of credit has to go to the government of that time for having successfully promoted this model, which kept women as the main driver for development. It's the woman who needs to be empowered. It's a woman who needs to get financial access, and she needs to be independent. She should get into the decision making level, because ultimately it's a woman who can really ensure the well-being of the family. She will not fritter away the money. She will spend the money on her children. She will spend the money on the health and nutrition. She'll send them to schools, So the heart of the entire program was women. So I think this is something which I think several other states also did, like the Kerala government has successfully done the Kudumbashree program, likewise in other states. So this is one thing I think I was very proud to be associated with.
Ma'am, when I was trying to browse about Society for the Elimination of Rural Poverty, I came across Newchi Garden. Do you mind explaining to us?
So I would like to say a little, when I was working with the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, so we had a program called the Community Managed Sustainable Agriculture Program. So this was basically, very well that lands get, the poor people, lands are all fragmented. They have very small parcels of land under their ownership. So the costs, the input costs are high at times to really gain profit from the land. Large farmers, they can, build economies to scale in terms of, their inputs. When you invest money on a large piece of land, the cost kind of reduces because you're doing everything bulk. While, for a farmer, for a small farmer who has say less than 1 acre or maybe less than 2-3 acres, it's not easy. They have to have a bore well, they have to have everything. all the inputs for a small farm, which escalates the cost. Buying bulk is cheaper, buying smaller quantities tends to be costly. Again, looking for markets and things like that. So what they did was they had something called the community managed sustainable agriculture, where they got farmers together and to build village level supply and demand, creating that supply and demand chain where you have help them to access seeds and fertilizers, and they can come together as groups and discuss their issues and problems, and interact with the local agricultural department experts and so on. So, and sustainable practices, that means non-use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, trying to use the alternative methods of agriculture, which they were able to educate through the departments and so on. So to a large extent it was in a very nascent stage. They started, or at least started it. I think this has kind of grown quite a big way in Andhra Pradesh. We see the zero budget farming that's happening, and likewise in few other, like Sikkim is a place where I think it's also happening. That's what Rahul was telling me about it, your principal. So there is, this has grown big now. There's more awareness around it, but still we are still not yet completely gone into completely festive organic farming, as you call, no pesticide, no chemical farming. We have not yet gone into it. We still have we have to tackle hunger in the country. We need that levels of production to maintain. So I think but definitely I'm sure we will see that through very soon.
Hello ma'am, I admire your beauty, intellect and profession. I am Charan, pursuing my studies in grade 8. Ma'am, how can we draw a line between rural poverty and urban poverty? Which is most dangerous for the Indian economy?
There is a connection between rural and urban poverty. See, what happens is during distress times in the rural areas, a lot of people from the rural areas migrate into urban cities. They look for small jobs, and you can find them all around. People get into very unhygienic, difficult kind of very challenging circumstances they live in, and it is because of that distress that happens, lack of employment and rural areas, no proper livelihoods, no proper education infrastructure, in the rural, that pushes them into the urban cities. So I think I still feel that there is a lot of focus that we need to do in the rural areas so that people remain in those places and they can find proper livelihoods, they can get access to good education, health and so on, so that they are less incentivized to come over to the urban areas, where the challenges are of a different sort, because it's very difficult for people in the rural areas to adjust to their urban environment as well, and to learn new kind of jobs and get accustomed, and the kind of exploitation that they get exposed to as well. So these are the things, I think they're very interrelated. What is challenging? I think both are challenging and both are interrelated, and that is why I think there should be more investments in the rural areas so that they have sufficient opportunities for themselves in terms of establishing more universities, more colleges, more schools in the rural areas.
Do you agree with the fact that poverty can never be removed but can be reduced? Ma'am, can we have your comment on this?
Now again, when you go into the definition of poverty, what is really poverty? India has come a long way, in terms of people say that the levels of poverty that we have seen, as definitely it has come down when you see the times that we are in. But still, when you compare with various other developed countries, we still have a long way to go. So we can't wish away poverty at all. We can't. And that is where I think governments need to more focus on infrastructure, build more infrastructure to facilitate people, so that they get good jobs, they get good education, have better skilling opportunities, and generally quality of life. I think that's one thing that we need to really focus on. To get, earlier it was a struggle was just to get roti, kapda or makan, but now we are looking at a much bigger basket of services that people would need, in terms of health services, education and so on, which are like very important, and also to build safety nets for people so that during crisis, during emergencies, I think they could be, we could prevent them from slipping down into below poverty line. So these are some very major concerns that I think governments should need to focus on.
Madam, can you tell us something about freedom of gender? Or is it similar to gender inequalities?
Every individual, as per our constitution, we are guaranteed rights irrespective of whichever gender you belong to. So whether you are a male or a female, or from the LGBT community, from the trans community, or it could be any. Now you have different LGBT group as well. So everybody has equal rights under the constitution. Nobody is denied of any right. So I think in the spirit of the constitution, definitely I think that is one thing that is protected. But what happens on the ground level tends to be a bit difficult because of several dynamics or social dynamics, and sometimes it is the economic disparities and so many several kinds of disparities that you see that kind of leads to this imbalances, this kind of imbalances happening, and this kind of inequalities that come about. So that is where I think it's so important to spread that kind of awareness on gender issues, specifically at a very young age, because I think that is the time when your mindset is being shaped. You see what happened. A lot of these gender related issues are also related to the traditional kind of mindset, the patriarchal mindset that has been kind of handed over generations, and people still haven't been able to break out of that. So what is important is to create more awareness on equality, on rights, on respecting each other's rights and not trampling on them. So I think equality definitely is an important aspect that needs to be promoted at every level. Now we are talking about not just, it's important to do it at a very young age at the school levels. It's important to promote it at workplace and various public places. It is important to do that.
A fabulous morning, ma'am. How are you doing today? We all are grateful to you for coming down here to inspire and motivate us. I too have some questions to ask. Ma'am, as a student of grade 8, I come across the word modern slavery for the first time. So, would you mind letting us know what it is?
So, this is a word which is more coined in the West. We call it human trafficking in India. I mean, this is a word which is, earlier when we talked about slavery in the olden days, we talk about the chains. You remember the vast number of Africans being, taken like cattle across ships and all that, working in advanced countries in very, very inhuman conditions, literally treated like animals. So that is the kind of slavery that we saw. But in today's time, you still continue to see the slavery. It may not be in the form of, chains and all that, but you see this kind of terrible kind of exploitation of women and children, especially sexual exploitation. And you see bonded labor, how human dignity is completely, trampled upon, where they have, it's the worst form of abuse of human rights. I think, and it is rightfully coined as modern slavery. We think we have done away with slavery. It's all happened when, in some other countries, or maybe in India also, when there were, groups of labor from rural areas, tribals and all, they were taken and exploited. We thought now we are, a democratic nation, and everybody's right is safeguarded. We have those institutions to take care of them. We have the police, we have security agencies to take care of us. But still, there is this dark belly, the dark underbelly which is there, which operates in a very clandestine fashion, very, very hidden underneath, where there is this business that take place with humans, enslaving people for their life, literally. So that's what modern slavery is all about. I hope I was able to put it more clearly. Sometimes it's difficult to get to a particular level and explain, but do shout out and ask me questions if you haven't understood what exactly I was saying.
Your profile also states that you were promoting chevening scholarships. Can you explain to us in brief the courses and eligibility of these scholarships?
So, the UK government, it offers various kinds of scholarships through differently, like British Council offers the Great Scholarship, the Commonwealth Scholarship, and so on. And there are also very specific scholarships that the government offers in tie-up with the state governments and so on. But the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, that is the External Affairs, what I said to you earlier, it promotes one particular scholarship, which is a flagship scholarship across globally, across all the countries. So this scholarship is the Chevening Scholarship. We have the scholarship and the fellowship. So the Chevening Scholarship is basically offered to Indian students. That they have to be Indian students. Of course, wherever they are offered in other countries, they have to be citizens of that country. But I will focus more on India. So in India, the eligibility is that the student, the person who wishes to study in the UK, should be an Indian citizen, and they should have a minimum of 2 years experience. They should be a graduate, any graduate, with 2 years of experience, and would want to do their masters in the UK. UK has some amazing universities. Of course, you must have heard of the Oxford, Cambridge, and Sussex, and so on. But beyond that, also there are several universities across US, in the Wales, and Scotland, and so on. So there are a lot of universities in the UK and which offer some amazing courses. So chevening is open to everyone. Whoever qualifies the basic eligibility criteria, there is no bar on choice of subjects. They can apply to a university of their choice. The student can apply to a subject of their choice. If you want to study astronomy, or you want to study biotechnology, or you want to study philosophy, so it's your choice. So you can pick up a subject of your choice. At university, you feel you want to study something. Somebody wanted to study in, say, Liverpool, so they can study there, or they can go to Oxford, whichever university they would prefer. They have to get an admission for that, and then qualify for the achievement. They have to send in an application form, and it's highly competitive. The application will be sifted, and the best applications, would be called for. Applicants would be called for an interview, and qualify through the interview to make it to qualify for only for the mid-career professionals. So there are certain fellowships for professionals who want to hone their skills in the middle of their career. Like we offer on science and innovation, which is called CRISP, and then we have one for journalism, which is South Asia Journalism Program, and then we have one on cyber security, and one on leadership and excellence, which is called Guru Codes. These are the 4 fellowships that we are offering this year. And being the 75 years of independence, this year we are offering 75 scholarships across India.
You worked on projects that found focused on freedom of religion and belief. I have seen many discussions about wearing a hijab. My question is whether the right to wear a hijab is constitutionally protected in India.
I think every Indian is allowed to practice their religion, to practice religion of their choice, whether you want to be a Hindu or you want to be a Muslim or you want to be even without a religion, it's fine. I mean, you can follow your belief. They are free to follow their own belief. We are a secular country. So, given that, of course, everybody has a right to do that. But on the hijab controversy, I think it's still under discussion, which is going on, because per se, I think our belief is that when we have the freedom to practice our own religion, I think if it doesn't infringe other people's beliefs, I think we are free to do what we want, isn't it? So I think I would go with that. Definitely, everyone has a right to practice, and it's important to respect each other's religions and religious practices. I think that is a core idea of having a democratic setup in the country, right? That's it.